One of the big themes of my MSP Marketing podcast and my YouTube videos over the years is that you need to build yourself a marketing machine that consistently generates leads for your MSP. But what do you do when you've built that machine and yet it's still not giving you the leads that you need? I'm going to tell you which marketing stats to track and if it is broken, how to fix your marketing machine. Hey, I'm Paul Green, and don't forget, for help finding new clients for your MSP, we've created an easy-to-follow marketing system. Get that and all the content to go in it at mspmarketingedge.com. So if you listen to the newish book about Elon Musk, it came out last year, I think, by Walter Isaacson. The first 2/3 are great. And then it goes into this sort of weird blow-by-blow account of what Elon did in his first 6 months owning Twitter X. I think that was because that was when the author was with Elon, and a lot of the details of what happened in those first 6 months had never been published before, so it made the book an easy sell. One of the many Elon habits that has made him one of the world's richest people. He's got a net worth of $194 billion at time of recording this video. It's down to the way that he drills into the tiniest details only when he needs to. So here's an example from when he needed to push Tesla into making 5,000 cars a week in order to make it profitable. So all of his people said, this cannot be done, Elon. So he physically walked the factory floor for weeks. In fact, he actually slept there as well. And he examined every single process and every single production station to find out how to speed it up and how to increase capacity. He actually removed some automation when it became clear that humans could do a better, faster job. He removed car parts. Elon apparently loves to delete as many parts as he can from his cars and from his rockets as well. And they even built a massive production tent outside the factory just to give them more space to increase capacity. You got to listen or read the book to hear the extreme measures that he went to. But, and here's a spoiler alert, a fully operational Tesla factory now outputs 5,000 cars a week. Now, I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, I was speaking with an MSP that I'd been working with for years at that point, and he had built himself a fully functioning marketing machine that didn't require him personally to do anything, which is the absolute dream. So he was building multiple audiences of people and constantly adding to those audiences. He was building a relationship with those audiences using content from the MSP Marketing Edge, and then he had some telephone people following up those audiences to try and find the right time to talk. Now, the problem he had was that the cogs in his machine were all turning, but nothing was coming out of the other end. He wasn't getting appointments. So something was broken somewhere. And I had a pretty good gut feel on what that could be. But to check, I told him that it was time to leave his metaphorical corporate offices and get back on the factory floor. Essentially, I told him to go and check every production station of his marketing machine. And in particular, I challenged him to start collecting some weekly marketing stats. The idea that these would help him to diagnose the problem he had, but then also in the future keep a closer eye on that marketing machine as time goes on. Now, let me tell you the weekly marketing stats I suggested that he track, because they may be something that's useful for you. So first of all, there was how many potential prospects are they attempting to connect with on LinkedIn. So if, for example, they make 10 connection requests a day, then over a week, working 5 days, that would be 50 connection requests. And then how many of those actually connect? And from that, of course, you can work out your connection rate. So let's say your connection rate is, 10%. So you attempt to connect to 10 people and one of those people connect. If you know it's 10%, then, and you know you want to connect with more than one person a day, then you know you've got to make 20, 30, 40 connection requests in a day. That conversion rate is really important. And then of those connections, how many of those are then added to their email CRM? And there's a number of different ways to find their email address. You can just go and have a look at their contact information in LinkedIn. You can Google their email address. You know, it's things like Steve at, or Steve.Jones at, or sjones at, or what would it be? Steve J at. You can go and put those in speech marks in Google and you'll find them. Or you can use a plugin like Lusher or other plugins that will tell you their email address, but at a dollar cost. The next stat to track was what's the email open rate. People always ask me this, and you don't want to get obsessed about this, but 20% email open rate is good. Anything above 25, 30 is really, really good. Next stat then, how to track is how many attempted follow-up phone calls are made. So if you watch my videos or listen to my podcast, you'll know I'm a big fan of having that back-to-work mum making follow-up phone calls on your behalf. Not selling, not knowing much about technology, just picking up the phone and calling people and asking them about their favourite subject, which is, of course, themselves and their business. So how many phone calls are we making? And the next stat to track, how many decision makers did the phone person speak to? Because you can make 10 or 20 phone calls, but you might only speak to one decision maker. And then another stat is how many 15-minute discovery video calls have been booked. So the goal of the back-to-work mum phoning your databases, your connections, is to see, is this the right time? Are they unhappy with their incumbent MSP? Is it a good time to have a 15-minute video call with you, assuming that you do the sales in the business? And then, of course, your job from those 15-minute discovery calls is to book a full sales appointment, a face-to-face one. So the next track, and in fact, the final stat that we want to track is how many full sales appointments were booked. If you track just these stats, what this will show you is all the different elements of the machine and what's working where. And you'll also get to know how many people do we need to add on LinkedIn every single week in order to get a full face-to-face sales appointment. And it might be like 500. You might need to add 500 people on LinkedIn in order to get a sales appointment, which you might think, oh, that's an enormous stat. But actually, this is exciting. This is sexy, because if you know you've got to add 500 people and work them through the machine to get a sales appointment, and you know that you close, let's say, 2 and 3 sales appointments, you know that for every 1,500 people that you add on LinkedIn, you're going to get 2 new clients. And that's what we're trying to do with the machine. That's what we're trying to figure out. And almost no MSP knows those kind of figures, and almost no MSP has that machine. And that's the opportunity for you. Exciting, right? Now, there are many more stats that you could track, but those there I've just given you is a great place to start. So tell me, do you have a marketing machine for your MSP? And if you do, well, if you don't, set one up. But if you do, don't forget to walk the factory floor now and again to check everything is working. And the easiest way to do that is with those key stats.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.